The late 90s and early 2000s were home to Nintendo's first 3D home consoles. The N64 paved the way for the rest of gaming while the GameCube took those ideas and improved upon them. But which one would you rather play today? And more importantly, which one had the best multiplayer? Join Mars, Andres, Brandon, Dusty, and me, Sean, in the great debate over which is better, Nintendo 64 or Nintendo GameCube. Who wants to go first, and what do you guys want to talk about first?
I'm going to say this one thing. The Nintendo 64 came out, right? It had 4 ports. So if you had 3 more friends, that's multiplayer. All the other systems, 2 ports. I think that was a big successful driver. You didn't need that little USB connection add-on to add.
That was a big innovation.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna say that about that, and I thought that was a major deal.
The PlayStation, I don't even think they had the dongle attachment thing. I think that only came out on the PS2. Like, the original PlayStation didn't have that, so you literally couldn't even do 4 players even if you wanted to.
Right. Yeah. So I think that was like, cause you probably got 3 more friends.
Yeah, back then it was definitely a more noticeable, thing. I mean, and to that point though, the GameCube also did that, right? Yes, it wasn't the first to do it, but it followed up on it, and it handled multiplayer better than the Xbox and the PS2. Like that, well, at least with no online, which that was an issue. But I think it's cool that the GameCube was able to have, 4 controllers as well. That's a big deal. I think it's something that a lot of people who weren't N64 or GameCube fans, they kind of didn't really take into consideration, but it's one of the best parts about those systems.
Yeah, because especially before the time of online, so you got your boys there. They all got a controller apiece. You good?
Dusty, since you're kind of new to this video that we're doing, what do you like more, GameCube or N64?
I'm defending Nintendo 64, man.
Yeah.
That is my OG. That was the first system. Like Pokemon with 4 people, baby.
Yeah.
All right. Stadium all the way. The mini games, like everything.
Oh,
loved it.
Mini games
that
so
was
good.
the first time you could really beat up your friends in Smash. It was like it's more simplistic. Like I was saying a little earlier, it's just I like the N64 a lot more because it's the start of everything, and versus GameCube refined it. I feel like GameCube more refined all the things Nintendo 64 started, but like Mario Kart Double Dash was a lot of fun, and Smash Bros. Melee obviously was friggin' awesome, but I have way more fond memories with the N64, and that's just my go-to, my dudes. So.
I think you hit the nail on the head. The GameCube was literally a refinement of the Nintendo 64. That's all it was.
That's very true.
It was fantastic for that. It even had the colors. They still had the same kind of advertisement. They had the same sort of marketing campaign and sort of design choices. It was all about we don't have the different controllers. Oh, we want this to be a portable system to kind of take with us. That they put in the handle there to make it more like the system you could take with your friend's house. Right? They really wanted to facilitate taking the GameCube with you, playing multiplayer with your friends. It was all building upon the same exact strategy as the N64.
Yeah.
The main thing that I think really hurts the GameCube is that it didn't have a legitimate online experience, right? And yeah, the N64 didn't either, but they wanted to do it on the N64, right? That's why we had the 64 DD. It failed, but that was part of the plans because Nintendo did see a future with that, and they didn't move forward with it because of the system failing. But the GameCube had that opportunity to refine on that as well, and they didn't. So I think that's kind of hurt the GameCube in terms of its succeeding amongst its competitors in that day and age. But the games for the GameCube, I think, are some of the most memorable games Nintendo has made. And for the record, I haven't made my decision on which I think is the better system for me personally. I do know which one is a better system for its time. I just want to go on to a point you said, Dusty. You said that Pokemon was a big deal on N64. It was the first time we had multiplayer Pokemon on N64. Yes. True. But the GameCube actually had actual adventure Pokemon games.
Right.
The N64 didn't.
Yeah, but they weren't.
But
really...
I prefer Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2 and Snap.
Oh.
Other ones.
I was getting a call. No. Yeah, with those
That was
Pokemon
the alert
games.
for winning point.
Andre, 1 point. There we go.
No, but I ended up agreeing with you anyway because I prefer Pokemon Snap in the Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2.
True. I do. Yeah, XD, Gale of Darkness, and what was the other one?
Coliseum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those aren't good though. Those suck.
I like them a lot. But I do think they were missing the stadium mode. They needed the stadium mode in there, and they didn't. They were like this very cumbersome. You needed the Game Boy Advance, and it was a mess.
Couldn't you only like capture like 60 Pokemon or something like that?
It was a limited amount.
Super limited, yeah.
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 Classic.
Right.
I love limitations. Awesome.
Limitations are fantastic. And speaking of limitations, the N64 had a lot.
Yeah, like third-party support.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah, like third parties. Yeah, the GameCube had better third party.
Not by much though.
It had Resident Evil 4.
RPG.
It had Resident Evil 4.
Yeah.
The GameCube has the best game of all time.
I disagree.
Joking aside, I feel like Resident Evil 4 is a really big deal. I think it's at least like the best horror game of all time.
Yeah, one of. And the GameCube actually had like I think a bigger variety of games. Like it had more RPGs and such.
Yeah.
RPGs.
The PlayStation
Yeah.
owned all the RPGs when it came to N64 because they couldn't fit shit on those cartridges. So,
Right.
like Final Fantasies, all those like gigantic RPGs, not a single one of them was found on the N64.
So actually, I might be able to make. I think I can make the argument that the GameCube might, like you said, Brandon, has more of a complete library. Because the GameCube has better variety. It has good games for every single genre, while the N64 was lacking in a few.
Well, let me ask you guys this: what games on the GameCube do you consider to be like amazing?
I could list a few. Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, Wind Waker, Metroid Prime.
Should mention that one
Resident Evil
first.
4. There's a bunch.
Metroid Prime is the best game ever. So is Resident Evil 4.
Really good.
Yeah, they're really good.
I will say that the Nintendo 64 was lacking on the Metro side. I don't think was there even a Metroid game made for the Nintendo 64.
No, there wasn't.
That's
Yeah.
a swing and a miss.
I feel like the GameCube was just graphically, it can still hold up, whereas like the N64, like frame rates, graphics, just like it's such a more clunky system as well. Whereas the GameCube is just a much more refined system. It had a lot more like 60 FPS games and like
It's
smooth
aged a lot
controls.
better.
It's aged so much better than the N64 has.
Yeah, like people love the GameCube controller. It's a pretty damn good controller. But maybe it has its limitations, right?
Mhm.
But like, just to use it for the games that it had, it worked perfectly.
You can buy that controller now for the new Smash Bros. I mean, they're marketing
Yeah, it's
the crap out
still
of it.
relevant. It's
Yeah.
still relevant. That's
I
crazy.
bought one the other day.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go buy one. I'll buy one.
It was only the one I got at least was only $30. It was like the Switch version, so it had the L button and it also had the capture button, and the D-pad and C-stick were like bigger.
But
and
it has those shoulder buttons, right? Those
yeah, those are the best
Okay.
shoulder buttons ever made.
I
Yeah,
actually
they're-
was never really a huge fan of the shoulder buttons, to
Really?
be honest. Like they worked.
They just feel so good.
Clunky.
Yeah.
They're clunky by design.
Yeah.
I like them because they added some pretty cool features to some of the games on GameCube. Super Mario Sunshine, you could, if you press it just slightly, you could run around squirting, but if you held it all the way, that's when you went to aiming with squirting. And their F-Zero GX, it gave you the drifting mechanic, where you drift to the side, and the intensity of your drift is affected by the actual analog shoulder buttons. And just the way they used it was kind of unique with some of the games they had. But, it's not like a game changer, but it was a neat thing to have on GameCube.
Can I play some defense?
Yeah.
I'm about to play some defense for the 64. Now, yeah, back me up, Dusty.
Yeah. Let's go.
All right, so y'all just got done talking about the library and all that, and Cube and all, it's all refined and all that, okay? Now let's talk about, and I like what you said, Andres, about how the Nintendo 64 was lacking in some categories, some genres, right?
Yeah.
I 100% agree. With that said, I'm going to say the Nintendo 64 set the groundwork with some of the games that came out for the games that we like today. Was there a game like Mario 64 before Mario 64 that goes on to lead to Mario Odyssey? Was there a game like Mario Kart? So Super Mario Kart and Mario Kart 64 are two different games. And then it leads on to what we have today. Was there a game or what? Zelda, right? That goes on and leads. It's like it laid. You get that foundation.
It laid the groundwork. You're totally right.
Yeah. And then I think that's critical. Like they made sure the groundwork is going to be there to lead to the future games, and then then the GameCube comes and they refine. That's cool. Yeah. And so on and so forth. And system after system is better and better.
Yeah, and you wouldn't have Smash Ultimate coming out. Alright?
Yeah, it's like the original or Ocarina of Time. Like, it's better than Wind Waker, even though Wind Waker's good. Wind Waker is very similar to Ocarina of Time. Like, it wouldn't be that game without Ocarina of Time. Same thing with Sunshine, and same thing with Melee and Mario Kart. Like, every single game on the GameCube is like a 2.0 version of what was on the 64.
Well, I'm gonna soft disagree with you. It's not you're right, but I want to say that like they took the time to make sure that Super Mario Sunshine was very different from Mario 64. It was like an expansion upon the idea, but they brought in the flood and go into a tropical island. Like they really mixed it up with that.
Yeah, it was like Mario 64, but worse. It was great.
Yeah.
Oh man, you're hurting my feelings. You hurt my feelings by saying that. But
Come to this side, Brandon. I'm getting Brandon over here.
I feel like you guys can still agree. I do think you guys agree though that Sunshine is different. Like it is definitely different from Mario 64, right? And Wind Waker, while it is following up the Ocarina of Time formula, it is also different, right? Instead of it being on a field, it's on an ocean. There are islands, and that changes up the gameplay a lot, and the style is very different. So I'm just saying that while the N64 set the groundwork and Mario 64 and Ocarina of Time are the two biggest most important 3D games of all time, because they both shaped the groundwork for all 3D games, especially at least with third-person games for the future forevermore, right? Like that's a fact, right? But the GameCube, while refining, also isn't just a straight repeat. It's not like, for example, playing Twilight Princess after playing Ocarina of Time. Well, actually, I just dug my own grave there. Twilight Princess, that came out on the GameCube. But at least with Wind Waker, it feels very different from the previous Zelda games.
But they do have games that are different, like Luigi's Mansion, Metroid Prime. Those feel very different to anything that is
WarioWare.
N64.
Yeah.
WarioWare, one of the best games on the whole system.
Well, and who can forget that McDonald's experience playing Luigi's Mansion while you're waiting for your McDouble? I mean,
I've never done this.
No.
You've never had that?
Wait, how did you
talking about?
I don't know how to get the McDouble.
Had a GameCube demo that you could play.
Oh,
What? For real?
I do remember that. See, I just didn't go to McDonald's because I have class.
My McDonald's experience wasn't
What are you saying?
It was with the N64. I played a lot of Diddy Kong Racing at McDonald's. That's what I played. Yeah. It
That was
was
the
the
only experience was the GameCube. It's McDonald's.
What the hell, dude? I've never heard of this in my entire life.
Yeah, I've never seen a GameCube at McDonald's.
Northwest thing. I don't know.
Oh,
Yeah,
I played the N64 at though. They had a lot of Diddy Kong Racing in Miami.
That's weird.
For McDonald's.
Huh.
It was really cool. Yeah. But I do want to harp back to the idea. I want to go back to N64, but I want to harp more on the idea that like the GameCube had some really interesting games. Like it had some pretty good RPGs, right? Tales of Symphonia, right? Final Fantasy Chronicles, that and Titles 1 and 2, which is basically that's what Monolith Soft, who made that, by the way. They went on to then make the Xenoblade games, which we now know them really, really well for, right? But we also had a Fire Emblem game, right? That's the first time we saw those really cool cel-shaded cutscenes before we get all the cool cel-shaded cutscenes with the 3DS games now, and now the Switch games. So there were some pretty damn good RPG/real-time games there. Actually, with real-time games, we had Odama, we had Battalion Wars, Pikmin, which is
Pikmin
super
was so
unique.
different than anything that was on the N64.
Yeah.
All right. I got something to play against all that. All right. So you may have those games on the GameCube, but you ain't got no Banjo-Kazooie or Donkey Kong 64
Or Banjo-Tooie.
Banjo.
Yeah, no Banjo
that one. We
at
won't talk
all.
about that one. But Banjo Kazooie, man, like that was the pretty much those were the whole years of platformers. So I mean, they really capitalized on platforms. Sure, you could argue that Banjo Kazooie and Donkey Kong Country are nothing but just different pasted assets of different things, but they're the exact same kind of game. But still, that was the age of that, and that was awesome. Like, you didn't get, other than Sunshine, you didn't really get that on the GameCube. You didn't get
You're absolutely right.
You didn't get any of that. And so, like, the fact that we got those, and now look at, they don't even exist anymore. I mean, Ukulele, I played that game. It's not bad, but it's not big. Not everyone's playing it. Like, it's some godsend. So I think the N64 has something as a spiritual memory of a time where those games were perfect and were awesome. You can go back and relive those memories because you can't in the future anymore. I mean, there's no virtual console for that other than you can see it on the Xbox One for Banjo Kazooie, which is fine. But yeah, just the idea of it, you can only do it on the N64. I mean, they didn't remake them or put any kind of sequels on the GameCube at all. And so, I don't know, I had all those experiences. Like, I remember all of that, playing Banjo Kazooie, man, Yoda, and Donkey Kong Country, trying to freaking beat that mini game to get the coins that can advance farther. Like, oh man, just love both of those.
I'm about to back my boy up real quick too. Also, I forgot to mention too what it meant for multiplayer first-person shooters with GoldenEye.
I never played it.
Like, think about like all the things that, because you always had Doom and stuff, you know. But when it came to like your friends and battling them, and you know, like then you're like, dang, like that's the first time I knew what a headshot really was. Like I was like, why you keep killing me so much? It's like, because I'm aiming for your head. And then it's like, I was like, okay, I need to just aim for the head, not just the body. So that, and then of course Star Fox, like. That, you know, I think Star Fox 64 is that the only good Star Fox?
And I wouldn't say it's the only good Star Fox, but there are people who would say that. But I will say that Star Fox 64 is the best Star Fox.
Yeah,
by far, yeah.
Like that's, I think that's what people know to be Star Fox.
Right, that is the one that people are like, oh, we need that again, right? And then Nintendo's like 5 times, minor exaggerations, actually 3. And they've never actually like recaptured that magic. I hope they do someday. But yeah, you're right. The N64 had the Star Fox 64, which is amazing. But would you guys agree? This is small tangent, but do you guys think the GameCube had better Star Wars games?
I don't really care for Star Wars.
Because back then though, Star Wars games were important.
True.
Right?
Yeah. N64 is some great.
Pod Racers was dope.
Yeah,
I did like that.
What was Rogue One on?
I'm pretty sure it was the GameCube. I mean, the N64.
The N64, yeah.
Yeah, but the Rogue Squadron 2, which still looks better than Xbox 360 games, came out in 2001 as a launch title for the GameCube.
That one's good.
Yeah, that one looks amazing. You know, so I like the pod racer thing on N64, but I feel like for like the flight, like battle sort of game, I think the GameCube gets that plus in terms of Star Wars games, but the N64 has Star Fox 64, which it went on that front for sure. I do think the GameCube had the better horror games, right?
Oh yeah.
N64.
I don't think you can really capture more on N64 though.
I can't remember playing some on the 64 with my dad, and they're so like cheesy and like bad that I actually thought they were kind of scary, but I was also like 7 years old, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think we agree that like the GameCube had the more complete lineup, but the N64 set the groundwork, and in terms of platformers, that's something N64 is always gonna have. And
they're heavy hitters.
Yeah.
There are some really heavy hitters on the N64. And I just want to say one more point before we move on. I think Banjo-Kazooie, I started playing it again recently. I never beat it. I never got that far into it, but now I'm like really delving into it today in this day and age, and I feel like it's actually aged really well. And I might even go as far as saying that it is the most polished, most complete platformer from the N64. Right? While the N64 may have set the groundwork, Banjo-Kazooie kind of rides on those coattails and it kind of takes it to the next level.
Yeah, because it came out later, so they had time to like improve on like what kind of made Mario clunky and.
And also had the RAM expansion pack, I believe, so the game looked better, ran better. Yeah, for sure. But it's
so
it is a fantastic game.
The music in that game is like.
Actually, fun fact. The Banjo-Kazooie came out in 1998, and the expansion actually came out in 2000 with Donkey Kong Country 64.
Oh, so it didn't
So
use
they
it?
actually captured that good of quality on Banjo-Kazooie before the expansion.
So was it
Which blows my
Banjo-Tooie
mind.
that took advantage of the RAM expansion?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Cool. Good correction.
They added the multiple worlds with like Twin Peaks or whatever, the Ice Peaks or whatever, and you could have several different areas. They had less load times, things like that on Banjo-Tooie. But yeah, no, I thought that's what I found was crazy about Banjo-Kazooie. I think that's why the worlds were smaller too in Banjo-Kazooie. They were more concise, and I think that's why I like the first one more, is because the worlds were smaller.
Yeah,
So
they tried doing too much with the second one.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, no, it's pretty dope. I don't know, 64 is just a magical thing.
And this, I'm pretty sure this is a point for the N64. It had rare games, right? It had rare.
That's critical.
Rare. Well, first of all, you can't blame Nintendo for this, I think, because Rare kind of died itself. Like, Rare lost the talent that made it so good during the 90s, right? So Nintendo losing Rare, it didn't really matter because Rare kind of sucked afterward, right? They made a couple with decent games afterwards, but they haven't been able to capture the same magic and core consistency since then. But with Rare, we had Killer Instinct, Perfect Dark. A lot of I've already brought up too, but like there's one in particular I want to talk about, and that's Conker's Bad Fur Day. That game is so non-Nintendo.
It's so
maybe
weird.
Nintendo's a bit more accepting of that now because they've kind of loosened up a bit. But even now, that's not the kind of game that'd be like, hey, this is our big feature game, right? Like, and then it was crazy to have. I know Nintendo was very conflicted on that game. Like they were kind of upset about it at the same time. But Conker's Bad Fur Day existed on the N64, and it was a good game. But it was also very edgy and funny, and that was a really cool thing. And that's something the GameCube does not have.
I remember my mom's boyfriend at the time, he had N64 and he was playing it, and I saw it was Conker, and I was like, oh, it's the guy from JD Kong Racing, and it's the people that made Banjo-Kazooie and Donkey Kong 64. This game's gonna be good. And all of a sudden there's like a giant turd monster and like people are like swearing and stuff. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
And then like furry women with titties. Yeah.
I was like, what the hell is this? Like, what world am I in?
Crazy, man. Crazy. N64 also had Turok. It was before Turok.
Yeah,
when Turok was good, it was on the N64.
I was gonna say, when you guys were talking about GoldenEye, that I never played GoldenEye, but I did play Turok, which was the multiplayer in that game is pretty similar from what I know about GoldenEye. And that game was actually like wicked fun. I had never owned it, only rented it and stuff back when they had game rentals.
But it was cool and scary. And
Yeah.
fun fact, the N64 didn't have Metroid, but it did have Turok. And now let me explain why that's relevant. Because Turok was made by Acclaim and Iguana Entertainment, the developer, and some key guys, including the head of Iguana Entertainment, then went on to form Retro Studios, who made Metroid Prime. So if you've ever played Metroid Prime and felt like it had some sort of similarity to Turok, it's because a lot of the key developers for Turok, the original Turok on N64, moved on to join Retro Studios and work with Nintendo, be part of Nintendo making Metroid Prime.
You know, one game series I think is infinitely better on the GameCube than the N64 is Mario Party.
Okay.
Mario Party
I really
4.
like Mario Party 2.
Mario Party 4 is definitely like my favorite by far. I've played all of them except for 6.
Infinity?
What's that?
No, I'm just messing with you.
Oh, infinitely better. I hate Mario Party 1. My friend literally one time, we were playing the tug of war game, and then after that we played the paddle game, and then after that we played tug of war again, and we had to spin the stupid stick, and he literally had this giant blister. This is like not even that long ago. It was like 6 years ago probably. He had this giant blister on his hand. Like the game literally causes you physical harm. And the second one is good, but a lot of the games are literally just from the first one. And the third one I haven't played in like forever, but it was okay. But Mario Party 4 had the graphics are so much better, and the art style and the mini games are like completely new. And I think that it was early on in the series that the games were like still really fresh and like still fun to play to this day.
Minus the jump to 3D, because it's literally adding an additional dimension. I would say the jump from N64 to GameCube is the biggest graphical jump we've ever gotten, for at least for a Nintendo system. I mean, I would say period. Like that generation from the 90s to the early 2000s was the biggest graphical jump we've gotten across systems. Period.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely Resident Evil 4 shows that.
So I want to talk about this. Which system had the better Mario Kart? Mario Kart 64 or Double Dash?
Definitely Double Dash.
Double Dash.
Definitely.
That's definitely.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm definite on it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I'm definite.
Well, hold on. Let me ask you this: when's the last time you played each of them?
Okay, look. Now,
A long time ago.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know, but I am gonna say Double Dash because of the it's the to me, and I said this to hundreds before, but the mechanic that two people on one cart is excellent, and you have to work together. Like if you like, I played with people that never played Mario Kart, and then I will always lose. But then you play with people that know Mario Kart, and you win. Like it's a deal breaker. But yeah, Double Dash. But I still like 64. I love the original stages that they were.
Yeah. And I love how they felt pretty open. They kind of let you drive off the quite a bit in Mario Kart 64. I think they did intentionally because there is this 3D world. You just want to kind of explore it a little bit.
Yeah, like exploring Peach's castle from Mario 64.
Yeah.
Dude, I spent so much time just driving around there.
I would tell people it's a shortcut.
Right?
Yeah, it's so fun to do that. But to your point, I think that kind of highlights another point about the GameCube that they made earlier, just that they took the time to make Double Dash feel very different from Mario Kart 64, right? And it just kind of speaks to the games that are follow-ups to the games from N64. Even though N64 set the groundwork, and I would say it's more important. The N64 is more important. It's a more important system for history because the games that were made for the N64 set the groundwork for 3D games forevermore, right? That's I don't think you can debate that. But the GameCube has a lot of really fresh takes on a lot of established franchises, and there's a lot of variety with them. It feels, it's what we said at the beginning. It's a refined system. So you said it, Dusty, right? The GameCube is the refinement of the N64.
Oh, yeah. And it is. It still is. I still can't deny that statement because it is pretty much is that. Because all the games that came out, like we're just talking about Mario Kart, like Double Dash, even though I have way more memories playing Mario Kart 64, I cannot argue the fact that Double Dash is a lot more fun to play.
So much faster.
It's just, I do come across the issue of how slow Nintendo 64 is, or Mario Kart 64 is.
60 FPS was a thing on the GameCube with a lot of their games.
Yeah, I think GameCube is the time where mechanics started getting just really good. Like N64 laid the groundwork, but they were still pretty clunky. Like GameCube just took it up to like another level with this how smooth everything felt and everything looked, and graphically, frame rate wise, and control wise, everything just felt like a whole nother level.
Right.
Yeah.
Mario's. Oh, you go ahead.
Yeah. What's up? Go ahead. What's up?
I was gonna say, I know you like the Mario sports games. Did you play any of the GameCube ones?
Yeah.
And Mario Tennis.
Yeah.
I think the best Mario Tennis was on the Game Boy, but
Well, it had Mario Golf.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
I love Mario Golf.
Such a good game. Like it's for some reason like super realistic in the way the physics of like the golf. It also had Mario Strikers. Yeah. And I did like the Mario
Strikers,
baseball one.
That was my big one, Strikers.
Strikers is a good ass game.
I really love Strikers. I actually like Mario baseball as well. This is technically not a Mario game, but it had Mario in it, and that was NBA Street Volume.
Oh yeah.
Was it 2 or 3? I'm not sure which volume
it was. It was 2.
It
was 2.
But it had Mario, Peach, I think. At least Mario, Peach, and maybe Yoshi and Luigi in there.
I remember the commercial for that still.
Yeah, and that's kind of cool to do. I mean, the game, I think, it's a game that's called on other systems, but it had the Nintendo characters in that one. The GameCube actually had multi-plats. Like the ones that were on every system, like the game would get the basic ones, right? Like it got the Call of Duties, it got the sports titles every year. You would always get that, which we took for granted back then. But on the Wii and the Wii U, and even on the Switch, it's kind of under debate about sports titles, and stuff, right? So you at least got that on the GameCube.
Ghost Recon, all those,
The biggest one probably Soul Calibur 2.
Yeah.
Oh, And obviously the best version is Soul.
It was the best selling, and it was the best in general. It had Link as a playable character, which is the coolest shit ever.
that was major.
Soul Calibur 2 is probably like one of the biggest multi-platinum like Nintendo games. I'm not platinum.
That game is really, like graphically even like everyone
I feel like it still holds up.
Is gameplay wise, but graphically, like you throw that thing in an emulator 1080p, I swear it looks better than any 360 game I've ever played.
I'm more likely to buy a Soul Calibur 2 HD remastered than Soul Calibur 6. But I'll say that the fact that the Killer Instinct is only on the N64. I think it was also on the Super Nintendo, but
yeah, because it was Killer Instinct Gold that was on 64.
Yeah, I really miss Killer Instinct. I mean, I know it's a rare thing, but not having that's like my favorite. Like, that type of fighting game. That's like my favorite. And speaking of fighting games, some people don't think it's a fighting game, but Super Smash Bros. Melee. Even though I really like Mario Smash 64, and I feel like Smash 64 is so different from the other Smash games that it's something it kind of exists on its own, and it's really fun to go back to. Melee is the breakout Smash title. That's when Smash Bros. Took it to the other level, right? Like, it was already incredible on 64, but Melee, people still play the GameCube, can still use GameCube controllers because of Melee, right? There are still competitive tournaments for Melee. Melee is still streamed on the internet, it's still like a big thing. Like, Melee is, for some people, the most important GameCube game. We haven't talked about it yet.
True.
So, I feel like I have to bring it up. It's a big deal.
Like, everything in 64 you can basically find in Melee.
I miss board platforms. Board the platforms.
That was the worst one.
It's a Smash 64 exclusive.
Fighting Polygon Team.
Yeah.
Polygon team.
It's a pretty cool name.
Yeah.
My favorite stage.
Yeah.
Which they still refuse to bring back.
I know. The original Final Destination.
Section Z.
I've made up my mind.
Did you?
Yeah, I've made up my mind.
Well, should we move on to final thoughts, or is there any other big points we should talk about?
I'm ready.
To go
Final
first.
Smash. Let's go.
I will say that personally, I kind of forgot how good the GameCube was before like talking about all this, but I'm still gonna go with N64, even though objectively I do think that GameCube was technically better. But which one is my favorite? I'd say N64.
For me, so it's faceted, right? It's not just clear cut. One is better than the other.
Yep.
But the GameCube's better. So, brief explanation: the N64, in terms of like, there are games on the N64 that I remember and I want to go back and play, and there's games on the game you can play. Like, on that end, they're both kind of even. And the N64 historically is really important, but in terms of a complete system, like if I'm gonna give somebody a game system with a controller from the past with a series of games, I feel like I can give them the best and most enjoyable experience by giving them the GameCube. I also just want to bring up, technically the GameCube has 4 Zelda games. You can play Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Wind Waker, and Twilight Princess on one system.
And 4 Swords.
Oh, and 4 Swords. So I would say the GameCube is a more complete experience, and it's aged a lot better than the N64. But that doesn't take away from the fact that the N64 is a historic system with incredible classics. And Dusty, I think you brought it up. It has platformers, which is also like, if you want to go back and play platformers, you have to go back to the N64 for that. But like I said, I think the GameCube is a more complete system, more refined. If I want to give someone a game system to enjoy, I'm gonna give them a GameCube.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to go with GameCube. As much as I love N64, as much as it was my first system and it got me into gaming and it's just so awesome, like, the games just don't hold up. I don't know if I really would want to go back and play Ocarina of Time at 20 frames per second with that N64 controller. Like, man, GameCube's just, it's the closest, it's way closer to modern gaming, and just a more comfortable experience, less clunky, way more refined. You can play like the best, my favorite games on the N64, Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, as you said, Andres, both on there. So I'm gonna have to go with the GameCube just because I don't feel like the N64 games have aged very well at all.
The thing that makes me go with N64 the most it's just my own personal thing. It's like going on the GameCube. Like besides Metroid Prime, which I do think is an amazing game. I don't even know why I said that. But besides Metroid Prime, no games are, not a single one. I'm like, I fucking love that game. Like I have so many memories. I'm just like, yeah, it's good. But N64, there's like a whole slew of games where I'm like, this is like one of the greatest games I've ever played in my entire life. Like Wind Waker is good. Twilight Princess is good. Mario Sunshine was good, but I can't think of a single song from any of those games either. Like the music and like the games, in my opinion, I just like, I literally can't even think of a single one. But like every N64 game, I'm like, I can recite like the whole soundtrack.
I think I'm with you too. Like on the 64, even like the games that weren't like heavy hitters, but I still enjoy like WCW versus NWO. I played that game.
There was that Gecko game. I don't remember the name of it.
Gex.
I remember liking it.
Gex 64.
Yeah.
I used to play that.
Yeah. I used to play like Pilot Wing 64. I was all about that. They just Jet Force Gemini when that came out. I was all about that. I was like, to me, the games are just. I mean, there was just so many. I was like,
I would go for the N64 because of that. It's just like, at the time they were great, but like going back and playing them now would not be as great of an experience. Like there's usually better versions of a lot of those games out, or like just I don't know, man. Playing it in these days, it'd be better. Like the GameCube would just be better.
Yeah, but even if you like, well, if you look away just from playing it, like, just all what led to today, 2018. I was like, okay, it was the 64, more so.
Alright, so I'm going to defend really weird, but I'm going to defend the clunky controls, and I'll tell you why. It is so funny to go back and get all my friends together, because we get together once a year and we play like Smash Bros. And GoldenEye and stuff like that on the 64. And every time, my brother's like, oh, great, you give me the fucking shitty-ass analog stick on this controller again. Thanks, buddy. Like, it's the idea of having the horrible controllers and trying to work with it. And, like, playing Smash Bros., Donkey Kong looks like an ugly horse, and it's so awesome. I just love it so much. Like, graphically, the games just seem like they have so much heart in them. Like, they just threw them together and be like, well, hopefully this will work out well. And it just looks like something that we around us with the technology we got, we'd be able to make in this day and age. But we love it because we put our heart and soul in it. And so, like, that's how I am with it. I appreciate more of the soul that the game's getting, because you can see that in those games being the first of all of them, you know? Like, clunky controls, man. They're just, it's part of the experience of the N64. It was something new that they were trying, and another analog stick would have fixed the issue on all these games, but you had the C button, so deal with it.
The GameCube, in my opinion, had the best analog stick. I love that. Yeah, I love the analog stick. Don't like the D-pad, but I do like the analog stick.
I actually hate it. I don't know. Yeah. It's small and annoying. I don't like it at all.
We're not talking. Not the C stick.
Oh, the analog stick. Oh, that one's. Yeah. I thought you meant the C stick. Huh?
No, the C stick is trash.
Yeah. I was like, why are you using that?
No.
No, the analog stick is fine.
Yeah.
N64 all the way, baby.
Let me say something that ain't got nothing to do with nothing.
I know you've been waiting to do that. You've been like this.
One thing too, and I think like, cause me and Brandon are pretty good age difference, so I think one of the things that plays into my decision is like, since I was like you said, you were always a generation behind, and with me, I was always in it, like with it. So with the Nintendo 64, like that was like, in my opinion, that was like the last console that Nintendo was really throwing their weight around. And by the time our GameCube came out, then you already had like PlayStation, and you had then they started getting their heavy, like Grand Theft Auto was an exclusive, so you start to look other ways, and it pulled away from like the GameCube, where like everybody was kind of on the 64, but then when the GameCube, people started making decisions more so, you know, like, all right, am I going to get a GameCube or a PlayStation?
Or Xbox.
And, yeah. So I think that kind of plays in my decision too when I just say 64.
I have to say, at the time, like, I think I enjoyed the N64 more than I did at the time enjoyed the GameCube. But if I had to go back and play them, I definitely pick GameCube.
Yeah, I see.
N64 just doesn't hold up.
Yeah.
I definitely got bullied as a kid for being a GameCube fan. I got bullied for being a GameCube fan, but no one would bully me for being an N64 fan, because that system, even though technically it didn't sell as good as a PS2, as a PS1, I think most people would agree the N64 was the better system.
People only bought a PS1 because of the CD player. People only bought a PS2 just because of the DVD player.
Well, I also think that Sony just marketed really well, and PS1 had the advantage of coming out, I think, like almost 2 years earlier, and it was really cheap. And also, Sega sucked, so there was just no competition.
Yeah.
So by the time the N64 came out, there was so much momentum going for the PS1 that there was no way they could win.
GameCube was only like $200 when it came out.
Yeah, it wasn't that bad. I remember I bought it myself, so it couldn't have been that expensive.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was $200. Brandon, what was your vote? GameCube?
Yeah.
So we got 1 for GameCube. We got 3, 2 for GameCube, Andres, and then 3 for N64. Right?
Yes.
Yep. So sucks for you guys.
I feel like I'm like I have like a divided vote, because it depends on how you look at it. For me,
What's your personal favorite? That's the question here.
Which is a system that I would want to go out right now and collect and play all the games for?
Yeah.
GameCube.
Yeah, GameCube.
But I also really want to play the N64. Like, I'm really waiting for
You're making me choose between
I'm sorry, I'm a complicated creature. I have fascinating ideas. I can't just pick one or the other.
Why can't you be like everyone else and not say anything? I'm just...
All right, well, that's gonna.
I'll just put GameCube for the record. Just
Okay.
Yeah, 64 all day, man. Come on.
Poor baby.
I
so
love how you're wearing N64 shirt, but you pick GameCube.
I mean, the N64, like to Mars's point, the N64 back when Nintendo was still kind of throwing on their weight, like the N64 was cool, man.
Yeah.
I got bullied for having a GameCube. Did not get bullied for having N64.
See, all my friends had a Nintendo 64. And
Yeah.
I can't say that about the GameCube. Like, they started to fade away. I was like, dang, no, am I the only one getting a GameCube? It's like,
Yeah.
then everybody come to my house and play the GameCube. It's like, y'all gotta get GameCube too. Y'all just can't have PlayStation.
And
Y'all
actually,
get
it's
GameCubes.
just going back to the point you made, Mars, like, it's true. The competition was a lot closer during the GameCube era as opposed to the N64 era. Even when N64 lost, we all agree N64 was better than PS1.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really cool. I'm just gonna stick to the vote just so it's air and so official, but you know,
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Look, I don't know. I love both.
It's tough. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's gonna do it for this video. Thanks for watching, everyone. Leave a comment saying what system you prefer and how mad you are at us for not picking your favorite thing. And check everyone else out. Check out the channels. The links will be in the description. And see you later.
Peace.
See ya.
Bye, guys.